Glorious devotees, thank you so much for returning for another presentation on Srila Visvanatha Cakravarti Ṭhakura's Madhurya Kadambini, the Monsoon Clouds of Sweetness. We will continue where we left off in our last presentation. That Jnāna alone never leads to Bhakti. If you remember in our last presentation, we were discussing the concept of Tat Twamasi and how these three, Tat, Twam, and Asi, relate to each other. Tat being the supreme, absolute truth. Twam being the minute jiva, and Asi being the relationship between the two. We'll continue. A little bit of a background on exactly what is Advaitavad, or the impersonalist conception of the Tat principle, because we often hear this phrase from the Chandogya Upanishad, Tat Twamasi, referring to you are that, meaning that you, the individual finite jiva, are the supreme Brahman. It is just the conditioning of Maya that has produced the illusion wherein we believe that we are associated with Maya, the material energy, and we are this material body. But once we are liberated through sufficient knowledge, Jnāna, we will realize that we are the supreme absolute truth ourselves, that undifferentiated aspect of the supreme. As we know in the Bhagavatam, we have this important verse upon which Jiva Goswami put so much emphasis in his Satsandarbhas. Vadanti tat tatvam vidas, tatvam yajnanamadvayam, Brahmeti, Paramatmeti, Bhagavaniti Subjate. This idea that the Supreme Absolute Truth is viewed variously by different transcendentalists, some as the undifferentiated Brahman, Brahmeti, some as the Paramatma, or the creative impetus behind the material manifestation, Paramatmeti, and then some as a supreme individual personality who is that supreme person from which all these various manifestations come. So that undifferentiated Jnanam Advayam, that undifferentiated substance, can be viewed differently. So the Advaitavad philosophy is as follows. There are some that say that Jnāna only means knowledge of undifferentiated Brahman. These transcendentalists reject the energies and form of the Supreme. This Advaitavad doctrine argues that an individual living being is nothing but Brahman conditioned by Maya. The Bhagavat theology is that the individual living beings are real and eternal integrated parts of the conscious energy of the Supreme Person, just as a ray of sunlight is part of the sun's energy. Rejection of the Supreme Brahman's personal form and energies, or considering them to be material, stands in opposition to the ideals of devotion and should be rejected. Srila Rupa Goswami states in his Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu, Jnāna and Vairagya may have some slight usefulness in helping one to enter the realm of devotion as doors to the devotional path, provided they do not oppose bhakti. As long as the Jnāna does not mean knowledge of the oneness of the soul with Brahman, and the renunciation is not dry. They cannot, however, be considered as a part of devotion, for in the view of the sadhus, meaning the devotees, both these practices tend to make the heart very hard. Devotion is tender by nature, and it is this soft-hearted devotional attitude that leads to the higher realms of bhakti. Lord Brahma himself emphasizes the significance of Harikatha as the primary means by which one can attain entrance into pure devotion. Those who, even while remaining situated in their established social positions, throw away the process of speculative knowledge, and with their body, words, and mind offer all respects to descriptions of your personality and activities, dedicating their lives to these narrations, which are vibrated by you personally and by your pure devotees, certainly conquer your lordship, although you are otherwise unconquerable by anyone within the three worlds. Srila Visvanatha Cakravarti Ṭhakura provides the following insight in his Sārtha Darsini commentary to Srimad Bhagavatam 5.6.18. Sukadeva Goswami could detect some despondency on the part of King Parikshit while he narrated the good fortune of the Yadu dynasty, caused by Krishna's having taken birth in their family. Therefore he spoke the following verse. O King Parikshit, for all you Pandavas, as for the Yadus, Lord Krishna, Mukunda, is master, teacher, worshipable deity, affectionate friend, and head of the clan. Sometimes he even acts as your servant or messenger. In this way, he has put himself under the control of his devotees. The Lord will easily grant liberation, but not Bhava Bhakti. So a little bit more of a discussion on the nature of this Prem Bhakti. Krishna prefers to keep Prem Bhakti hidden. Krishna Das in his Chaitanya Charitamrita writes, even though Krishna will run to his devotees to award them sense gratification and even liberation, he will not give them Prem Bhakti that easily, preferring to keep it hidden. Then Krishna Das writes further, if those who desire material enjoyment or merging into the existence of the absolute truth engage in the Lord's transcendental loving service, they will immediately attain shelter at Krishna's lotus feet, although they did not ask for it. Krishna is therefore very merciful. There seems to be some contradiction between these two verses from the Chaitanya Charitamrita, and we will now look at them from the Gaudiya perspective. The Gaudiya Sastic conclusion regarding the Lord's bestowing of Prem Bhakti to his devotees. Some think that the Lord withholds Prem Bhakti because he is controlled by such deep love. They mistakenly believe that being under the control of his devotees is painful to Krishna, when in fact he gets more joy from Prem Bhakti, which is a function of his pleasure-giving potency, than he does from his own essential being. Far from feeling any discomfort at being under the control of his devotees, he derives the greatest pleasure from it. The rarity of devotion for the Lord's personal form. Stated in the Srimad Bhagavatam, Muktanam api siddhanam, Narayana parayana, Sadurlabha, Prasantatma, Kotishwapi Mahamuni. O great sage, greater than those who are Jivan Mukta, and greater than those who attain liberation is the devotee of Lord Narayan. Such a devotee who is in Santa or another Ras is very rare, even among 10 million people. Srila Jiva Goswami comments as follows. In this verse, liberated refers to persons who still have their material bodies but are completely free from any attachment to them, Jivan Mukta. Nevertheless, it is difficult to find anyone amongst even millions of such Jivan Muktas who desires nothing other than to serve Lord Narayan. Such a person is a truly peaceful soul, untouched by any disturbance. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu instructed Sri Rupa Goswami, because a devotee of Lord Krishna is desireless, he is peaceful. Fruitive workers desire material enjoyment, jnanis desire liberation, and yogis desire material opulence. Therefore, they are all lusty and cannot be peaceful. The Brahmavadis abandon Jnana upon getting a taste of Bhakti. We saw this in the dealings between Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and Prakasananda and his sannyas followers, who were all Brahmavadis. But upon meeting Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, they were overtaken by his display of personal effulgence and immediately were attracted to his form. The Chaitanya Charitamrita reads, "The transcendental pastimes of Krishna are full of bliss and superior to the bliss of non-personal Brahman. They consequently capture the minds of the Brahmagyanis and completely enhance them." Srila Rupa Goswami writes in his Lalita Madhava, "The opulences of perfection in mystic yoga, the perfection of righteous qualities like truthfulness, samadhi, and the bliss of Brahman realization all seem wonderful to a person, for only as long as the scent of prem, that most powerful medicinal herb for captivating Krishna, has not found the way into one's heart." Therefore, we can see that devotees are truly the pinnacle of the spiritual hierarchy. This comes out fully in Sri Chaitanya's instructions to Srila Rupa Goswami. In this universe, there are an infinite number of living entities going through the cycle of life in 8,400,000 different species. These species can be divided into two categories, the mobile and stationary. The mobile creatures include birds, aquatics, and animals. The human species are also included in this category, but the humans are much fewer in number. Humans include various uncivilized tribes like Malechas, Pulindas, Baudas, and Subaras. The civilized human beings are those who follow Vedic principles, but almost half of them simply give lip service to Dharma and commit sins forbidden in the Vedas. Those who do follow the Vedic Dharma are usually attracted to fruitive activities and are called karmis. Of millions of such karmis, a single jnani may stand out as supermost among them. Among millions of such jnanis, one may be actually liberated, and even amongst millions of liberated persons, one devotee of Krishna is hard to find. Srila Visvanatha Cakravarti Ṭhakura continues, and he shows that Bhakti does sometimes serve Jnana. He writes in his Madhurya Kadambini, when the Lord appeared as Vamana, or Upendra, he accepted a position of subordination to Indra, who was his older brother and served him in every way. The wise have understood that this was a manifestation of compassion rather than inferiority. Similarly, in texts where Jnāna is described as the supreme path, Bhakti is said to serve and support the cultivation of knowledge. The wise, however, know that this role is accepted by Bhakti Devi out of her compassion. Visvanatha Cakravarti here compares Bhakti's relation to Jnāna with Upendra's relation to Indra. How can Bhakti be transcendental if within the material modes of goodness? Would be a natural question. The wise understand that Vamana's giving respect to Indra and maintaining him was nothing other than a demonstration of his mercy. This reveals his true greatness and not a real position of subordination. Krishna realizes his fullness as the Supreme Person through diminishing himself by descending the ladder of mercy. The Bhagavatam defines the bhakti of the jnani as sattviki bhakti, or bhakti in the mode of goodness. Whatever kind of realization of the Supreme One seeks, personal or impersonal, one is dependent on bhakti. So both these paths depend on bhakti. Krishna says, one can only have a direct experience of me through bhakti. Bhaktyamam abhijanati. And I can only be grasped through bhakti. Bhaktyaham ekaya grahya. The personal, savishesha, and impersonal, nirvishesha, manifestations of the Supreme Absolute Truth are both realized by bhakti. The personalist's approach is one of unmotivated, niskama, devotion, and the jnani's ultimate desire is motivated, sakama, by liberation. Bhakti manifests her nirguna form for the unalloyed devotees, the savisesha, which is niskama. There is no desire whatsoever on the part of the devotee except for serving the Lord unconditionally, unmotivated. Whereas those that desire liberation, the jnani, they serve in the mood of sattva-gun, and Bhakti Devi serves them just as Upendra serves Lord Indra as a mercy so that they can attain nirvishesha through sattva-gun and ultimately attain Brahman realization. I thank you so much for taking your valuable time to view this presentation on Sri Visvanatha Cakravarti Ṭhakura's Madhurya Kadambini, and I hope you will return for future presentations and that they nourish your spiritual progress. Hare Krishna.